Yeah, hi guys, good morning. And in today's session, we'll discuss about load balancer services. Okay, so we have one service called Elastic Load Balancer. So what is the use of that? How many type of load balancers, and what we can expect in interviews? So we'll try to cover these details. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. So we have one service called ELB. ELB means Elastic Load Balancer. So what is the use of load balancer? Why do we need load balancer service in our environments? If you see the name itself, load balancer means it will try to balance
Distribute.
the load or distribute the load. So what the service will do? This service will help us to distribute the load across different EC2 instances. For example, okay, this is my EC2 instances with my application. Okay, so this is my application and this is the EC2 instance. Hiring EC2. Okay, so this is hiring is nothing but my application, and this application is deployed in different EC2 which is in AWS environment. Okay, so what is happening now? For each EC2 there will be one IP address, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
192.168.0.1. This will be 0.2. This will be 0.3. This will be 0.4 and this will be 0.5. So we have deployed our application in 5 EC2 instances. Then it will create 5 IP address. I mean, there will be 5 IP address to access my application. So now, if any user wants to access my application, so what he can do? He can either access this IP in browser. Before that, let me write the definition. Load balancer is used to distribute the load across different EC2 instances. Okay, so this will be the definition for our load balancer service. So now, as per our diagram, so we have our application deployed in 5 different EC2 instances, and these 5 EC2 instances have different IP address. So if any user wants to access my application, so what he will do, he will open the browser and he will enter 192.168.0.1, this IP address, or else he can execute 0.2, or else he can go for 0.3, or else he can go for 0.4, or else he can go for 0.5. So he can either access 0.1 IP address, 0.2, 0.3, or any IP address. So what will happen if the user, if this is the user, if this is the user and he is trying to access 0.1. So if he is trying to access 0.1, where will be the traffic redirected? The traffic will be redirected to the 0.1 because this is what he is trying to access 0.1. Having 5 IP addresses for same application is of no use, means you cannot literally share all these 5 IP addresses or configure these 5 IP addresses in our Route 53, or I cannot share these 5 IP addresses to my client. So which IP address should we use? Should I use 0.1? Should I use 0.2? Or which IP address should I use to access my application?
Our own
We
domain
can
name.
create a static IP address.
Yeah, even if it is a static IP, even if assume that these are the static IPs, these are not changed, but still we have 5 IP addresses for the same application. So which one you are going to share with your client or to the end users?
We can give load balancer IP so that.
Yeah, load balancer IP, but I'm not talking about load balancer. I'm talking about the general situation where we are deploying our application. If we have load balancer, then that is a different case. But as of now, we don't have any load balancer, right?
The first one.
Why first one?
So default.
I'm not talking anything about load balancer. I'm just discussing the use case why we want load balancer. Why should I use load balancer? Okay, so we cannot use first one or we cannot ignore fourth one. No, that is not right. Because we are paying the billing for all the 5 EC2 instances. In all the 5 EC2 instances, we have the same application. Or else assume that 0.1. Okay, as per your answer, if you have shared 0.1 to the end user and the server is down. User is not aware of 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. So what will happen? He will think that the application is not running. Because here we don't have any such process which will help us to check which service is up and running and which is not available, which is in service, which is not in service. So if we have our application deployed in multiple instances, so we need any particular service which will help us to distribute the load. Means these are two different subnets, for example. Okay, so out of these subnets, we'll be using one service called what is happening. So we'll use one service called load balancer. So now this load balancer will have one DNS name. Means it can be DNS name or any IP address as well. For one load balancer, we have IP address. Okay, so assume that every load balancer will have the DNS name. So now what I will do? I will share the DNS name or the IP address of the load balancer to the end user. Means we are removing all these 5 IP addresses. This is not required to the end user. So what I will do now? I will try to share the IP address of my load balancer to the end user. So now what end user will do? For example, assume that this IP address is 192.168.0.10. Okay, so the IP address for the load balancer is 192.168.0.10. So now what I will do? I will share this IP address to the end user and I will ask him to access my application with the help of this IP address. So when the user is trying to access the application, so what he will do, he will execute the load balancer IP address in the browser. And then load balancer, what it will do, it will check how many requests are coming to us. Based upon that request, it will try to send the request to any of these EC2 instances. Means it can send to any EC2 instance. It can either send to 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 or 0.4 or 0.5. No need to share 10 IP addresses, only one IP address is required and all the requests will be redirected to the load balancer, and from there load balancer will distribute the load across different EC2 instances. Got it?
Yes.
Yes.
So this will be the ideal solution when we are having multiple applications in multiple instances. We should always have load balancer which will help us to distribute the load across different targets. Targets in the sense EC2 instances. Okay, so what I will do now, I will create one more service here. This is nothing but my route 53. In route 53, I will configure the alias name of my DNS of my load balancer. And when I am trying to execute my domain name, for example, xyz.com, so the request will be redirected to my route 53. Here it will check for the DNS validations and then it will redirect to the load balancer because my route 53 CNAME is mapped, alias is mapped with the load balancer. And then load balancer will distribute the load. Again here, for example, assume that 0.1 is deleted. Something happened and this is not available. So what will happen?
Still it will work.
Load balancer will go to another instance.
It will not work. Our application will be working only because we have other EC2 instances. But load balancer, what it will do, it will stop sending the target or traffic to this 0.1. So load balancer will understand that something is wrong with 0.1. This is not available. I cannot send the traffic. And load balancer, what it will do, it will redirect the traffic to some other instance, for example 0.2. Earlier what was happening, if 0.1 was down, then the user was seeing the error issues, I mean application not found kind of issues. But now load balancer will understand that this EC2 is not available. I should not send the traffic to this target. And this is ignoring. After some time, if again this EC2 is back to running state, then load balancer will track the status and it will automatically send the traffic to this particular EC2 instance. How load balancer will understand whether it is running or not? What is the logic behind that?
Load balancer will do health checks in target.
Yes. So we have something called health check. So load balancer, what it will do, it will keep on sending some request to these targets. I mean, how many instances are there? 5. So it will keep on checking if these EC2s are running or not, if they are available or not, with the help of health checks. So we have one concept called health check in our load balancers. So health check will help us to identify the health of the EC2 instance, whether they are up and running or not. But on what basis this health check will be executed? Means what kind of request my load balancer will send to the EC2. So we know that there is something called health check, but how it is executing? What do you mean by exact? I mean, how it is checking the health of my EC2? If suppose you went to a doctor and you will ask him to do some kind of tests and also what they will do, they'll send you to they'll ask you to go through some test and they'll get the reports, and based upon that they'll help us to know the status. Similarly, in load balancer, we'll try to path the path of the specific application. Means, for example, you have your application deployed in index.html file. So I will configure one health check path that /index.html. If this file is available, it means health check is passed. If this file is not available, it means that health check is failed. So what my load balancer will do, my load balancer will come to this particular target, okay, and it will check for this path. If this path is available, then health check is passed. So it will keep on checking for a specific threshold of time. Means for every specific seconds or specific minutes, it will go and it will check. So health checks will help us to identify, or load balancer will understand that health checks is something which needs to be checked in order to evaluate whether they are healthy or not. For example, health check is failed. So what it will do? It will deregister, means it will try to remove this instance. Remove in the sense not, it will not delete, but the status of this EC2 will be deregistered. And load balancer will not send any traffic to this instance until and unless the health check is passed. Clear?
Yes.
So health check on what basis this is been executed? Based upon the path what we are trying to pass to our application. Okay, it can be any simple index.html file or any other file as well. Or else we can also configure health check as /. Okay. So apart from health checks, we have something called draining connections. Drain connection. What is the use of drain connection? Why do we need drain connections? For example, one user has started accessing our application. So my load balancer, what it did? Okay, it went to route 53. From route 53, it went to load balancer, and from load balancer, it came to 0.1. For example, assume that it came to 0.1. Class loan. Okay, so for example, it came to 0.1. After coming to 0.1, something happened and my EC2 instance got, it is not responding. After coming to this particular target, this EC2 instance is not responding. So once the health checks are failed, what load balancer will do? It will remove from your loop. This is not available. This will mark as unhealthy, right? But in this case, what is happening? The request has been already came into this EC2. It is trying to process. Suddenly the health check got failed for some reason. So we have something called draining connections. A drain connection means it will wait for specific period of time. I want my EC2 to wait for at least 120 seconds if my health check got failed to deregister itself. So within 120 seconds, what will happen? The request which has been processed will be completed, and then my EC2 will be not available. So this is how the load balancer will try to manage. Not only to distribute the load, but it will help us to try to hold the particular sessions as well as to evaluate the status of the EC2 instances based upon the health check. It will not just simply distribute the load. No, it will also check if it is still available. If it is active, then only it will share, or else it will stop sending the traffic. Clear?
Yes.
So here, how many type of load balancers are there? So we have in AWS under Elastic Load Balancer, we have 4 different load balancers. This will be asked in interviews for sure. How many type of load balancers are there? Classic load balancer is one. Then application load balancer is one. Then network load balancer is one. And then gateway load balancer is one. Means there are, how many type of load balancers are there?
4 types.
4 type of load balancer. One is classic, one is application, one is network, and one is gateway load balancer. Of these 4, which one you have used for your project?
Application load balancer.
Why?
We are in the production, so applications.
So I can't use network load balancer. Which Venkat, which load balancer you have used in your project? So we have used application load balancer, but why? I will help you out with the reason behind this as well. So for now, just remember one thing, that we are using application load balancer in our project, because you cannot tell them that we are using 4 load balancers, right? So we might be using only one load balancer. In our case, it is application load balancer. Now, if you have 4 different load balancers, then there might be some difference as well. And why do we need 4 load balancers? What is the difference between these load balancers? We are saying that we have 4 load balancers. Okay, let me go to Elastic Load Balancer service first. We have something called load balancers. Here, if I click here, so we have 4 different load balancers. So for every load balancer, there will be some difference as well. Okay, so we need to understand the difference between these load balancers. But before that, let me show you something. In North Virginia, if I'll click on create load balancer, here you can see something called gateway load balancer, network load balancer, application load balancer, and classic load balancer. This is previous generation, means this is very old one. And here you can see different options as well. There are some protocol, something. For every load balancer, there is some different protocol. Here TCP, UDP, TLS, GWLB, something. Okay, so this is in North Virginia. If I'll again go to some new region which is not available, okay, let me go to Paris and let me see. Gateway load balancer is there. Let me go to Ireland. Gateway is available. Okay, let me go to Frankfurt. I guess even here we can see gateway load balancer. Yes. So what was, I mean, earlier gateway load balancer was restricted only to limited regions. Means gateway load balancer was not available earlier. Gateway load balancer was limited only to North Virginia and some specific important regions. It was not available everywhere. So we were only discussing these 3 load balancers only, because gateway was limited to specific regions, and these 3 are very important for us. Okay, so for now let me remove this from here. Now let us focus on the difference between these load balancers. So classic load balancer, application, and network. So which load balancer and when to use which load balancer? This will be asked in interviews. When should I use application load balancer? When should I use network load balancer? So classic load balancer, for every load balancer there will be some different protocols. Okay, so classic load balancer will work on HTTP protocol, HTTPS protocol, TCP protocol, SSL protocol. Sorry, TCP and what else? Let me just check. SSL, right? Okay, so here you can see HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL means this application or classic load balancer will work on these protocols. Application load balancer works on which protocols? HTTP and HTTPS. Only these two protocols will be supported by application load balancer. Means if you are using application load balancer, then you can only use HTTP or HTTPS protocol. These are the internet protocols what we have seen in our initial stages as well, right? Initial sessions. And then we have network load balancer. Network load balancer works on protocol TCP and UDP. Do we have only the difference in terms of protocols? No, apart from protocols, we have difference in terms of usages as well. Let us first discuss about classic load balancer. Okay, is this clear, guys?
Yes.
Others, जरा एक बार नजर मारो, सो रहे हैं क्या है, कौन भी आवाज कर रहा नहीं? डिस्कनेक्ट है, कनेक्टेड है?
कनेक्टेड है भाई।
फिर तुम लोग ऐसा सुस्त हो गए तो मेरे को नींद आया रही ना अंदर।
కనెక్ట్ అయ్యి
మీరు రెస్పాండ్ ఇవ్వకుంటే నాకు నిద్ర వచ్చేస్తుంది, నేను మాట్లాడి అలసిపోవాల్సి వస్తుంది. బోలో బోలో కో సాయి ప్రసాద్. Okay, so we have four type of load balancers. One is classic, application, network, and gateway. Gateway was limited to specific regions, so we'll discuss only about classic, application, and network. Out of these three, so there is difference in terms of usage as well as protocols. So classic will work on HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL. Application will work on HTTP and HTTPS. Network will work on TCP and UDP. So now let us see the actual difference in terms of implementation, how this is working. Okay, so let me draw one diagram first. This time this is my classic load balancer. Okay, so this is classic load balancer. Here we'll be having two different subnets. Assume that this is public subnet only. Here we have two different subnets. Public subnet, and this public subnet I am having one EC2. Okay, so I'm having two different subnets, and in one subnet I am having two EC2 instances, and in one subnet I am having three EC2 instances. So what is happening now? When the user is trying to access our application with the help of DNS of our load balancer, and this will work on which protocols? HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and SSL. These protocols only. So what will happen if the user is trying to execute the DNS? Okay, you can see the DNS in this format: DNS CLB colon name, whatever name I will configure, test -lb colon 80. Means this load balancer DNS is CLB test-lb, and colon 80 is nothing but the listener of my load balancer, means HTTP protocol. So what will happen? The request will be redirected to the load balancer, and load balancer, based upon the health check, this is aware that okay, 5 instances are available. Based upon the health check, load balancer is aware that 5 instances are available. So what it will do now? To which particular subnet it should redirect it? Where should the traffic gets redirection? Whether it should go to the public subnet 1 or public subnet 2. How this will decide? Who is going to decide? So when a user is trying to access the load balancer with the help of DNS name and then the port number, it will go to the load balancer. And load balancer is aware that there are 5 instances. Now, who is going to decide to which particular instance the target, I mean the request should be redirected? Load balancer did the health check and it understood that okay, 5 are healthy.
Work on protocol.
Protocol number is 80, it is HTTP. Here we haven't configured any protocols.
DHCP.
Hmm?
DHCP.
DSC. I mean, see, we are not talking about the IP address, right? So why are you going at IP side? I'm just asking from here, where should it go? Whether it should come to this subnet or this subnet. Who is going to decide that? So we have something called round robin algorithm. Means we will configure, I mean our load balancer will work on round robin algorithm. Means if the first request is redirected to this particular subnet, then second request will be redirected to this place. If third is redirected here, fourth will be redirected here. If fifth to this subnet, then sixth will be to this subnet. So the load balancer will work based upon the round robin algorithms. Based upon this algorithm, the request will be redirected either to first load balancer, sorry, first subnet or second subnet. Here, what is happening? Understood this one? How this is redirecting?
Yes.
So here, what is happening now? Here, for example, there are 100 requests. How many requests? 100 requests came to the load balancer. So classic load balancer, what it will do? It will distribute here and here based upon round robin. So how many requests here? 50 requests. Here how many requests? 50 requests based upon round robin algorithm. So what is happening now? Requests are equally divided, but here if you see this, we have only 2 instances in one subnet. Here we have 3 instances in one subnet. Means here in subnet 2 we have 3 instances, which is more capacity. Means it is not checking how many instances are available. It will only make sure that the request is equally distributed. If suppose here one instance is down, I mean the health check of one EC2 is down for some reason, we have only one EC2 instance and the 50% of load is being managed by one EC2 only. In subnet 2 we have 3 EC2 instances. So what might happen? There might be a chance that one EC2 where all the 50% of traffic is redirecting might be slow. %50 of load is being serving by only one EC2 instance. My load balancer is not checking that. So when should I use classic load balancer then? I can use classic load balancer only when we have equal number of EC2 instances in both the regions. Means if we have 3 instances in one subnet and 3 instances in another subnet, then only I can go for classic load balancer. Or else what was happening? 50% of load is being managed by one server, 50% of load is being managed by 3 servers. So there is lot of difference here as well. If you have equal number of instances in both the regions, and if you want to use the protocol HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, SSL, then I can go for a classic load balancer. But this is very outdated one. So no one is using classic load balancer. Understood?
Yes.
Yes.
So let us now see the implementation of this. Okay, let me go to classic load balancer. Okay, so this is my load balancer service. Classic load balancer. Let me see HTTP, HTTPS, TCP and SSL. Let me click on create load balancer name. Classic load balancer is the name. And here we have two different type of options, internet facing or internal. Internet facing means which can be accessible to the internet, means outside the world I can access. Internal means within the VPC only. This can be used as internal load balancer as well. So for now I want internet facing, and then if I'll go to VPC, it is asking me for the VPC details. So I will be using the default VPC, and here it is asking to select availability zone. And if you'll see this, we recommend selecting at least 2 availability zones. And the load balancer will route traffic only to targets in the selected availability zone. Means whatever subnets you want to select, US1A and 1B, it is recommending that at least use 2 availability zones, and whatever EC2 instances are available in these subnets will be able to redirected with the help of load balancer. Means you cannot create instance in 1C, and you cannot access, and you cannot expect your load balancer to route the traffic. Okay, got it?
Yes.
So I want all my instances to be in the both the same subnet. So I'm using US1A and US1B regions. So let me select these regions and let me scroll down. Here it is asking me to select the security group. I'm using default security group. And here it is asking us to select the protocol. So how many protocols are there? 4, right? HTTPS means if you have any SSL certificate, see SSL certificate from ACM, then only you can use HTTPS. So as of now I don't have any SSL certificate, so I am using HTTP only. TCP is also port number 80. SSL is also for port number 443. Okay, so I'm using HTTP for now. I'm using HTTP for now. And here we have something called instance protocol. This is very important. Here we have something called listener protocol, and here we have something called instance protocol. Means for example, let me just write one IP address 192.168.0.0:80. Okay, and here my I'm running HTTPD, which is running on port number 81. This is for just for example. Okay, so here we have two different port numbers, port number 80 and my application is running in HTTPD, which is running on port number 81. So which port number is listener port number and which port number is instance port number? You can see this, right? So we have something called listener protocol and instance protocol or port number. Which one is listener port number? Who is listening to the request?
Classic load balancer.
User is aware of load balancer only. So load balancer is listening to the request. So listener port number of load balancer is 80. So here I need to configure 80 port number. Where this load balancer is targeting, to which instance this is targeting, on which port number the instance is listening. Based upon the diagram.
HTTP.
81.
80.
Okay, so I need to make this as 81. If this is running on 85, for example, then it should be 85.
85.
Okay, So all the requests which are listening on the port number 80 of the load balancer will be redirected to the port number 85 of the instance. This is what we need to configure. Don't get confused what is instance port or what is listener port. Listener port is something related to the load balancer. Instance port is something related to the EC2 instance where your application is running. If it is 8080, then it will be 8080. If it is listening on 80, then it will be 80. Got it?
Yes.
Yes. Now let me scroll down. Here we have something called health check. This is very important, as I said. Here if you see, load balancer automatically performs health checks to test the availability of all register instances. Means load balancer will only register this instance or take in count only if health checks are passed. Okay. So based upon what health check is being executed, based upon the ping path, means my load balancer is going and checking if this particular file is available at this particular location. Yes or no. If it is available, then it means it is successful. If it is not available, then it means it is a failure. Okay. So for now, let me use the default one only. I am not going to change anything for now. Why? I will show you that at later point of time. Okay. So currently the ping path is /index.html, means my load balancer should go and check if this file is available or not. Because of some security group issues as well, if my load balancer is unable to communicate to my EC2 because of security group, even the health check will get failed. Okay, so always make sure your load balancer and your EC2 instances are in the same security group, or else what will happen? Or else you need to enable them. Okay, and scroll down. Here we have something called advanced health check. So it is asking us, what should be the threshold when this EC2 should respond to health check? For every 2 seconds. How many times should I go and check? For every 5 seconds. Okay, means for 5 times. Okay, and then unhealthy means if you are unable to get the respond, then when should I make it unhealthy? At least check for 2 times and make it unhealthy. How many times should I check to make it healthy? At least check for 10 times. So this is what the configurations are being assigned. And again, if I'll scroll down here we have instances, means which particular EC2s. Okay, which particular EC2, this part. Okay, in my case, I don't have any EC2 instances now. So I will ignore this for now. I am not attaching any EC2 instances because I haven't provisioned any EC2, right? So let me ignore this. Let me scroll down. And here we have something called enable cross zone load balancing, means when should I enable this and when should I disable this? If I am enable this cross zone load balancing, means we have 2 availability zones. We have 2 subnets, right? So this is our AZ1 and this is our AZ2. Then I should enable cross zone load balancing, means my load balancer should check for the multiple zones. Okay, if I am having all my regions in one zone, then no need to enable it. But if it is for multiple availability zones, then I should enable this. Okay, and then we have enable connection training, means applicable to instances that are deregistering, means what will happen if something went wrong and your health checks are getting failed and your load balancer will make it deregistered, then this will help us to execute or complete the specific process. Okay, so I want to have connection training so that my request or the user request is completed. So tags are optional, so let me ignore. And here I can see all the configurations. Scroll down and click on create load balancer. Okay, so I have created load balancer. If I'll click on view load balancer, we can see that one load balancer is created. Name is classic load balancer and this is the DNS, means This is nothing but our domain name server. So this is what the user will try to access on the browser. So what I will do, I will try to map this DNS to my Route 53. Okay. So and then we have something called state. As of now, nothing is running, and this is available in 2 availability zones, and the type of load balancer is classic. This has been created just now. And if I click here, then here you can see different details. See listeners. So how many listeners are there? I am having only one listener. Okay. Details here you can see 0 of 0 instances in service means no instances are attached to this load balancer. Even if you copy this DNS and hit in the browser, you will not be able to see any output. Why? Because nothing is running. No EC2 instances are attached. Okay. And then here if you see this health check, then you can see what are the different parameters we have configured for the health check. Okay, and then we have target instances means this is nothing but our targets, which particular EC2s we want to configure as a target to my instances. And then we have monitoring. This is nothing but our CloudWatch. Clear?
Yes.
So now what we need to do? We have provisioned one load balancer, but we don't have any targets. So now let me provision EC2 instances. Let me go to EC2 dashboard, instances. Let me click on launch instance. I'm just configuring two different names, server 01 and server 02. The reason is only for the testing purpose. I mean, I should understand, okay, this is working as expected. If I'll keep the same message, what will happen? You will not be able to understand where the request is being transferred. If I'll keep two different names, then it will be easy for me for the testing purpose. Okay. So tag and then Amazon Linux and then T2 micro is okay. Key pair, backup server will be the key pair, and the network settings, because my load balancer is in VPC default one, so I'm also using the default VPC, and my load balancer is only in two different subnets. Here it is no preference, right? So let me edit this. Let me configure 1A. Where is the 1A one? 1B, 1D, 1E, 1A. Okay, so this one. So I'm selecting this subnet because my load balancer is in subnet 1A. Okay, and then existing security group, because my load balancer is using default, I will be also using default. Okay, and then advanced options. In advanced options, what I will do? I will try to write one script to install HTTPD. Server 01. www.html index.html. Okay, and then sudo systemctl start HTTP. So this is a sample script, and let us see what will happen. Launch instance. So what I have did, I have created one EC2 instance with server 01 as a detail. Similarly, let me create one more EC2. This time this will be in another availability zone, means I have created this setup. I have created this setup. One subnet is done. Now let me create one more subnet. Launch instance. Okay, network settings, subnet. Where is 1B? Where is 1B? 1B, 1B. 1B? Yes. Someone is. ఎవరా ఏమంటారు అర్థమవుతలేదు. నేను యూస్ చేసింది డిఫాల్ట్ బీపీసీ. ఐఎమ్ యూజింగ్ డిఫాల్ట్ బీపీసీ. Okay, launch instance. So I have created two EC2 instances now. Let us first test the server 01 if my Apache has been installed successfully or not. So let me copy this, paste. Okay, server 01 means this is working as expected. Similarly, server 02. Let us see. Okay, server 02 is also successfully deployed. 01 is also deployed, right? So what I will do, I will go to load balancer and this time target manage instances. I will select these two instances are my target, server 01, server 02, and then select save changes. Okay, so what I have done, I have successfully registered two target instances, means I have set my load balancer that we have two targets. If the health checks are passed, then try to redirect the request to the particular target. So here 0 of 2 instances in service means we have two instances but nothing is in service. If I'll refresh this, 2 of 2 instances in service. So what is happening now? We have two instances which are active and running below the load balancers. Here if you will see in service, health status is very important. Always check for health status. If it is active, then only the request will be redirected. Okay, see 0 to 0.1. Now if I'll access my load balancer DNS, I don't want this IP address to access my application. Okay, so if I'll access the load balancer DNS, the request will be redirected to the target. See, server 01. If I'll refresh this, server 02. This time server 02, right? See, server 01, server 02, server 01, server 02. So here, even if you try keep on adding 100 instances as well, no need to worry about the IP addresses and all, because load balancer will register all the EC2 instances and it will try to distribute the load. This is how our classic load balancer is working. For example, assume that, let me just log into the server 02. Let me just connect. Okay, what I will do, I will try to stop HTTPD. Okay, I have stopped HTTPD service. Okay, HTTPD service is not running. If you see the status, this is inactive. Now let us see what my load balancer will do. Means my load balancer should know that server 02 is not active now. Means my service is not running. And this should not send the request to 02 because this application is not up and running now, right? So let us see. Let me just try to refresh this. See now, see, out of service. Instance has failed. at least the unhealthy threshold. Checks continuously. And if I'll refresh this now, let us see what happens. Server 01. If I refresh server 01 only. See, even if I'll refresh for 100 times, my load balancer is not redirecting the traffic to the unhealthy instance. Why? Because the health check is failed. Why the health check is failed? If you go here, what we have said, you should go on this particular port number /index.html. If this index.html is available, then only you should pass the health check. So here for server 01 /index.html, hit enter. See, server 01 means this is available. So server 01 is healthy. In this case now, in server 02 case, if I'll copy this public IP :80/index.html, hit enter. It is not available. It is taking some time to load, but this is not available. That's the reason health check is getting failed, because HTTP IP and then port number 80 index.html. This is not available. See, this is still loading. Let me try to use this in incognito. Page should not be available. See, this site can't be reached. That's the reason my load balancer is failing the health check. Understood how health checks are getting passed and failed? How this is making the targets, registering the targets?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now if I'll start this service, HTTPD service on server 02, automatically health, where is this? If I refresh this, it will wait for a couple of minutes, seconds, whatever time threshold time we have given, and then it will try to access. Let me try to refresh this. Let me try to copy the DNS of load balancer. Server 1. See, now server 2 is also responding. If I'll refresh, where is my load balancer? Yes, targets in service. See, automatically this is checking and this is adding and removing if something is wrong. So classic load balancer, it will work on which protocols?
HTTP, HTTPS, TCP.
Guys, everyone please revise this. Classic load balancer works on which protocol? HTTP, HTTPS,
Yes.
TCP and SSL. It can be used if both the number of targets, number of targets in both the subnets are same. This is working on round robin algorithm. So here, and after classic, we have one more load balancer, that is application load balancer. What is the use of application load balancer? And why do we need application load balancer? Why do we need application load balancer? Because already classic was there. This is also working on HTTP, HTTPS, but still, why should I use? This is also same protocol. So why should I go for application load balancer? I can use only classic, right? Here, if you see this classic load balancer, in listener part. Okay, so what will happen? So it is listening on port number 80, or you can create one more listener. So why do we need multiple listeners? Means if we have one target on running on one particular port number and one target is running on one particular port number, then you can add multiple listeners. But for example, if you have multiple applications, means not only one application, if you have two applications, targets are different. Okay, you have two applications. One is for images, one is for documents. In that case, I need to configure multiple load balancer. Means I should use two classic load balancers. One is for one particular application, one for another application. So if I use application load balancer, what will happen? Only one load balancer can be used for multiple applications. How? Based upon the path prefixes, based upon the rules what we can configure. So what is rules, what is path prefix, we'll discuss it. Okay, and the very popular what I can say is classic load balancer, sorry, application load balancer. These two are very important. When should I use classic load, application load balancer, and when should I use network load balancer? This will be asked in interviews for sure. If your application is working on HTTP, HTTPS, and we are aware of fixed number of target or traffic, then we can use application load balancer. Means you are aware that these many users are going to access our application, and our application is accessible on these protocols. Then you can use application load balancer. When should I use network load balancer? For live streaming. For example, we have and if application, this is not required. So for live streaming application means we have our JioCinema, where we can watch Hotstar. I mean, we have our cricket streaming lives, right? So such kind of applications we will be using network load balancer. Why? Because if you'll observe, I mean, JioCinema or Hotstar, right? So in general, the number of users for Hotstar or JioCinema are very less. When it comes to cricket season, the number of users will be 1 CR, 1.5 CR, right? In normal time, it might be hardly 1 lakh users or 2 lakh users. But when it comes to the season of cricket, it will be 1.5 CR, 1 CR, right? So in order to balance such level of traffic, we should always use network load balancer, because this will work on the TCP and UDP protocol. These protocols are something related to the networking concepts. If I am using application load balancer, I am expecting sudden spike in traffic, then application load balancer will also get break. If I'm expecting a sudden spike in the traffic, I'm expecting my application to be live, people will be watching, then I should use network load balancer. Clear?
Yes.
So these load balancers will have difference in terms of protocols and in terms of their behavior as well. I mean, based upon the traffic, based upon the sudden spike, the application load balancer will not be able to handle such request. Application load balancer is suitable for the limited number of users. From 1 lakh to 1 CR, there is a huge difference of 99 lakh users. Your application load balancer will not work. Network load balancer will only able to handle, because this is working at the networking level. Means we have something called OSI layer. We have something called, let me remove this. we have something called OSI layer. If you'll see this, let me show you something. Okay, for every application model, so we have this open systems interconnection model. Okay. Okay, so we have something called OSI layer. Okay. So based upon this OSI layer, if I'll open these images, okay, so we have 7 different layers of OSI model. One is application layer, that is layer number 7, presentation layer, session layer, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, physical layer. And for what purpose each layer is used, here we have this in the diagram. This is something we call as the standards, or we call as the OSI model. Okay, so now application layer will work on the layer number 7, application layer. Sorry, application load balancer. This one, application load balancer, it works on application layer, that is application layer. Okay, so application layer is working on which protocol? Which layer? Application layer, that is layer number 7. And what is the use of this? The human computer interaction layer, where applications can access the network services. Do not go deep inside this, because this is something what I don't want to discuss for now. Okay, and this is also not much relevant for us, but remember something, that application layer will work on layer number 7, that is application layer of OSI model. And network load balancer is working on layer number 4, that is transport layer. Here you can see the protocols TCP and UDP. This is how the traffic and the data packets, everything are being sent to our applications based upon this OSI model only. This is the standards. Okay, so in general, you can expect a question that difference between application layer and network layer. Okay, you can expect the question that what is the difference between application layer and network layer. What is the difference between application layer and network layer?
Network layer work on live streaming.
So we can always answer that application layer works on protocol HTTP, and this is what they are expecting in the interviews, guys. Mug up with this answer. This is for sure question. Application layer works on protocol HTTP and HTTPS. Application layer works on layer number 7, that is
Application layer.
application layer. We can configure multiple rules, multiple listeners, and it will check for health checks. Means any load balancer. Okay, this is for any load balancer. So we can configure multiple rules, multiple listeners, and it will check, it will work, or else it will check for health checks. If the health checks are passed, then only the traffic will be redirected. This is ideal for number of, these many users are there, then this is ideal for such kind of cases. Okay. So whereas network load balancer,
It will work on TCP/IP protocol, TCP/IP.
TCP and UDP protocol. Network LB means load balancer. Okay. Works on layer 4.
4.
That is session layer or transport layer. Transport layer. Okay. That is transport layer. Apart from this line is same, means it here also we can configure multiple rules, multiple listeners, and it will work based upon health checks. Apart from this, we can configure elastic IP to NLP, means for network load balancer, I can configure one elastic IP which is not available for application load balancer. Okay, let me add one more point. It will work based on path prefixes. This will also work based upon path prefixes. Okay, so these are the difference between application load balancer and network load balancer. Okay, so application load balancer works on, why I have written as layer. Application load balancer works on protocol HTTP and HTTPS. It works on application layer, that is layer number 7. We can configure multiple rules, multiple listeners, and it will check for health checks. It will work based upon path prefixes. Network load balancer works on TCP and UDP protocols. It will work on layers 4, that is transport layer. We can configure multiple rules, multiple listeners, and multiple path prefixes. We can configure one elastic IP to network load balancer. These are the differences what they are expecting in the interview. Okay. Yes or no?
Yes.
We will try to work on the practical session tomorrow. Okay, so we'll work on the practical session for network load balancer, for application load balancer tomorrow. Network load balancer is something what you guys need to do. Application load balancer, I will help you out to understand how this is working. Both are same, both, in terms of configurations, both the configurations are same. Okay, so for now, let me wind up this call. If you have any questions, then let me know. Okay, silence means I think we are good. So
Sir,
yes.
can you explain this drain connection once?
Drain connection, what will happen once the request will be redirected to the, for example, if my EC2, so we have configured, where is my load balancer? Okay, so in my load balancer, how many instances are there? 2 instances, server 01 and server 02. So when this is active in service, if the health checks are passed, yes or no? If this health check is failed,
Yes.
if this health check is failed, so what will happen? It should wait for 300 seconds and remove this status.
Okay.
Okay, so why? Because if suppose someone has already accessed our application, load balancer has redirected to server 02. Once the request is connected to our server 02 application, means whatever application you have here, right? So once if the request is redirected over there, And if then your health check got failed, then if it will remove automatically without any information, so what will happen? The user will see these messages, site can't be reached. So what I'm doing, I am holding my request for 300 seconds. So within 300 seconds, the request will be processed and the health check will be out of service. No new request will be available. Okay. And then we have something called cookie sessions as well. Cookie sessions I will discuss in tomorrow's session.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, even though it is outdated, can we use a classic load balancer?
Yeah, we can use classic load balancer as well, even though it is outdated, but we have specific conditions, right? I mean, the number of targets should be same in both the regions. Then only it is, I mean, the performance of classic will be better, or else it is of no use.
Okay.
Chalo guys, bye. Let me stop this recording.